The purpose of this class is to get people wanting to mine or feel safe to mine in mostly wormhole space. Low-sec is kind of dangerous anyway, but the lessons apply. And the same for nullsec. So we're looking at this for basic dscan setup, basic defensive operations. We're focusing on mining as well. We're an industry corp, right? And we need to know that we need to be able to trust our dscan. If we don't trust our dscan, we're just going to be stuck in high sec mining Veldspar all day, and that kind of gets boring after a while. Because the dscan will save you, except when it doesn't. So dscan will help you feel safe wherever you are, even in high sec, because sometimes people want to suicide gank you. Our major threats are cloaky ships, dscan immune ships, dscan bubbles, the dscan itself, and combat probes. The cloaky ships are the biggest threat. They can be cloaked, right? That's a problem. And they don't show up on dscan when they're cloaked. So that's an even bigger problem. So they can do things like call in their friends. They can hero tackle you, as we'll get into a little story at the end of this. They can bookmark the asteroid you're hugging, letting your little miners go, and then fly out, get in a bigger ship, and insta-warp to you, and bam, they're right on top of you if you're not paying attention. They can have somebody else warp, share the bookmark with their corporation, and jump you. So if you're solo and you catch a cloaky on dscan, you probably want to dock up, especially in low sec. In wormhole space, I mean, you got to judge it how you judge it. Our next third are dscan immune ships. As far as I'm aware, there's only 4. They're the combat recons of each of the major races. I'd name them, but it doesn't matter because they won't come up on dscan anyway. So these ships can be scary, but if they show up on grid, just run away. They're pretty easy to avoid so long as you're paying attention to the overview. You'll see them start to warp in and you immediately warp out. No sense on staying on grid if somebody else shows up, ever. Dscan bubbles, I don't know much about those, but I do know that if you're inside the bubble, your dscan doesn't work. But also if you're inside the bubble, other people's dscan can't get through the bubble to you. So it's a good way to kind of hide stuff. And I mean, you can always have alts and scouts on the outside of the bubble relaying intel. So intel is important to keep hidden. You don't want to give up intel. And then the dscan. Dscan's a threat because, well, the enemy uses dscan. And we're not cloaked while we're mining. We're not dscan proof. So if somebody comes into a system and goes, oh, there's a retriever on screen. I think that guy's probably at that special asteroid belt. And if he's not there, he's probably at one of the other asteroid belts. And with a little bit of manipulation, you can figure out right where somebody is without even using combat probes or just figuring out the distances between objects and the angles. And yeah, they can figure it out pretty quick, especially people that practice it every day, which some people are crazy fast with the dscan. Combat probes are our last major threat. With some quick manipulation of the dscan, like I was saying, they can know where you are. So if I scan like 180 degrees towards an ice belt, and I go, oh, there's a Hulk there. There's probably a Hulk there at the ice belt. So I can launch my probes, drop them right on top of them right away, scan, bing, bam, I'm on top of the Hulk in probably less than 30 seconds if I'm on top of it. So if you see combat probes, somebody thinks they can get you or somebody else around you, and you don't want to be around the combat probes. Inversely, something I didn't think about before I wrote this class, we were in wormhole space. With my combat probes out, I was just scanning, just to see if anybody's jumping into the hole. And if I jumped into a wormhole and I saw a bunch of combat probes, I'd be jumping right back into the hole, because they're looking for somebody to kill, right? Even though we were using it defensively, I would expect it to be offense, right? Because, yeah, only fools pick battles they can't win. So if they see you, they're trying to combat you, they think they can win. So we don't want to fight them. We don't want to fight people that think they can win. And we're not trying to fight anyway. We're trying to harvest our resources and build ships for other people to blow each other up. The setup's pretty easy. It's easier to actually show in game, and I can't do that right now because I'm on my laptop. But basically, you open up your dscan, which will open up a big old map, and there's a little button on there. You click it, and the dscan is no longer docked to the map. You close the map, put the dscan somewhere that makes sense, and that's pretty much set up. We want that on our main screen. After that, we need to set up our filters. What we're looking for are ships and probes. This is when we press our key to scan, we want to see if there's ships coming at us or anywhere near us within 14 AU, or if somebody's launching combat probes at us. Because if we just look for ships, The probes might get us. If we just look for probes, the ships, well, we're not really defensive if we're not looking for ships. And then we also need to set up a hotkey. A lot of people use space. I use V. I think it was a default once upon a time, but use whatever you need to do. That a button you can press all the time. One thing to note, if you have bookmarks open and a few other, or your inventory, your cargo open, and you click and you have that window focused and you try to type, it's going to try and type inside that. And so if you hit V, let's say, for your scan, it's not going to work. But if you have have it set to say Control V, it'll work no matter what. Yeah, so filters. Yep, I already went over this. We need to see probes, we need to see ships, and really the others are self-explanatory. Combat probes can get a lock on you and warp directly to you. And like I said before, somebody can descan, oh, you're over there. The combat probes actually lock on pretty easily to ships. It's pretty impressive. So you don't want to be around if there's combat probes. So enemy ships. When you see ships on the dscan, you can double-click them to see the info card or right-click show info. And you want to do this so you can go, oh, are they with friends? Are other people in local, the same corporation, same alliance? What's their security status? You want to get as much information as you can without giving your information away to the enemy. And if you're really skittish, of course, you can just flee whenever somebody shows up in dscan or local or whatever. Yeah, use judgment based on ship type. If you see miners, you're probably not too worried about it, but they can still tackle you. Yeah, I went on to this. Mining ships, they can still tackle you. A Venture is a pretty good tackler. A Retriever can even tackle you. You never know what people have. If you see interceptors, you might want to consider getting out of there because if they land on grid, they're probably going to be able to get you before you get up to speed to warp out. Shuttles, corvettes, pods, they're probably just trying to travel, but they could also be spying, so keep that in mind. If anyone lands on grid with you, just go somewhere else. It could be somebody that's friendly. It could be somebody that's no threat, but maybe they're bookmarking that asteroid that you're mining. All they have to do is look at you, find a close object, bookmark it, tell their friends, and they're on top of you at 0, right? So if you see anybody on grid and you're, especially if you're by yourself and there's no defense, just get out of there. So our general defense is our tank. Like we need to be able to take a little bit of a beating in case we get caught. We might be able to still get away even if we get caught. We should have a full flight of drones. That's combat drones. If we're I said jammed here, but I mean disrupted. If we're disrupted, send those drones to attack immediately. If a frigate tackles you and you get a flight of hobgoblins or warriors on them and they're applying damage, it might be enough to get that guy to bug off before his friends come in to kill you. It might be enough to even destroy him. Yeah, a tank plus drones can take out frigates. If you can sustain the damage of a frigate and nobody else is coming in on you, your drones are going to rip them up, especially in like a Retriever. You got a full flight of Hobgoblin 2s, full flight of Warrior 2s, even better maybe. So what we really want to do is avoid fights altogether. We can do that by keeping our alignment good. We can have insta-docking bookmarks and such. Anchor rigs are interesting. Numbers. If there's a lot of us, it's a lot less likely that somebody's going to try and tackle. So one guy coming to tackle one of the Retrievers, let's say there's 3 Retrievers and a Hulk, one guy comes in to tackle the Hulk. We have a lot of flights of drones we can just unleash onto this guy. We need to attack, just like if you're by yourself. Hit the drones on them as soon as possible, and they're not going to survive it. A frigate's just not able to handle it. At least not, and maybe a heavy tackle, but a regular tackle, drones will tear you up. We watch local, we use dscan, which I think I got a little ahead of myself with the local thing. Because when you're descanning, a lot of people don't change their names, and then you can look up their name and figure out who they are that way. But in local, we'll be able to just do that easily. Alignment. So you want to get into your belt. Everything feels safe here. You're watching your dscan. So point yourself, at the very least, point yourself at somewhere you can warp out. Then all you need to do is get your velocity up to speed and you warp out. That's your best way to get out. I tried to get a Retriever in wormhole space. I had him bookmarked. I came in with a ship. By the time I landed on grid, he was leaving. So the dscan will save you. And alignment will save you. If he wasn't aligned, I would have probably got him. So, yeah. Oh no, a Purifier is on dscan. Warp out. Being pre-aligned makes us much, much faster. So for bookmarks, Instadoc. Especially if you've flown a Hulk with an anchor rig, you really notice this. Like in Gerisas, I have a Hulk and an anchor rig. When I land on grid at our station in Gerisas, we land like 1,500 away from the docking ring, so we're not docking right away. And when you can only move 44 meters a second, you really feel it. So we want to Get on top of those stations, make a bookmark so we can warp straight to the station. And then as we get there, just like a wormhole, click on it and start smashing that dock button if you're in trouble. Your locations. You should keep your locations window open. And yeah, you can right click in space, be like right click, locations, stations, or whatever your bookmarks are, and then finally you get to warp to 0. If you have your locations window open, you can just right click warp to 0 real quick. Yeah, if you feel threatened, then you can run away. Yep, this is what I just went over. If you don't have an insta-dock or insta-jump. Oh, an insta-jump is the same as an insta-dock, just with a jump gate. Like, sometimes you land a little bit away from the jump gates and you have to travel there. You don't want to be doing that if you're being chased. Because you could get webbed, you could get triple webbed, you can get bumped, and you might not make it to the docking ring before your ship goes pop. And remember to dock after landing on your location. You got to get used to that. I tend to forget all the time. I'm like, all right, warp to 0. Oh, I'm just docking at the station like normal, right? Oh, crap, that's right. I actually have to dock. So anchor rigs are interesting. They make you flat, fat, and slow. You can get locked quicker, but your top speed is lower, and your acceleration, in theory, will get you from 0 to 75% quicker than if you didn't have the anchor rig. And furthermore, like I said with my Hulk going like 44 meters a second, if I hugged an asteroid, turned around, and faced my warp out point, I could go max velocity for quite a while before getting out of range of my beams. Especially if we have like porpoise support or mining burst support. Then we can go like 30 kilometers away from the asteroid. Yeah, we'll be able to warp out if a threat shows up instantly, being pre-aligned and at warp velocity. And then numbers, of course, there's nothing better than numbers. If there's 10 of us, we'll probably be left alone unless there's a lot of them. Even non-bonus, like I was saying before, even the non-bonus drones can hurt. Dscan. Always press Dscan if there are people in local. Basic defense is to make sure it's at 360 degrees max range. Advanced techniques require adjusting these, but for now, we're just trying to survive. Your survivability goes up exponentially. If you're not paying attention to D-scan, you never know if there might be some tackle frigate out there ready to jump you. And the D-scan would have saved you. Even in high sec, you're using the D-scan, you're mining Veldspar in your Hulk, and suddenly you see 5 destroyers class vessels appear on your D-scan. You might want to warp out. They might be trying to suicide yank you. You'll be able to see ships at just over 14 AU away, which is plenty of time to warp out if you sense a threat. Of course, if they're already on top of you, it gets difficult. So local, always watch local, and this is what I was talking about earlier. Check the pilot info cards. So we're assuming known space. So if you're in wormholes, Bachvian space, if there's anything else that I'm unaware of that doesn't have a regular local, I guess filaments take you the abyssals or whatever, but there's nobody else in there anyway. At least I don't think there are. If we see local numbers spike, you want to be on guard, because, hey, they might be coming for you. Even if you see a couple people, same thing. Might be a couple people coming to tackle you while their friends are on the other side of the gate. If there's no one, then you don't have to hit D-scan, and you get to mine in blissful ignorance. And if you're about to start mining, and you're docked at a station, and you see people pop up on local, don't undock. Wait until they pass through. If they don't pass through, then use your best judgment, but there's no reason to be giving the enemy any more intel than they need. They fly through, they don't see retrievers on scan, they move on. They fly through and they see retrievers on scan, they might tell their friends, hey, there's some people mining over there. We'd really rather just keep that to ourselves. And it's one of the reasons why low sec is so dangerous. At least in Wormhole, you don't have to worry about local, and you can pretty well hide, and if you're on the D-scan, you're going to know if somebody else notices you. Same with Null. But if you're solo and you're scared, we have quiet nearby locals. Alal seems to have a decent amount of traffic, but you can move around a bit and probably be in some pretty quiet systems just mining by yourself. And if somebody shows up on local, just duck up. And if you're that paranoid, and that's fine, especially if you're solo. It's hard to watch everything by yourself and also be able to get away. Info cards, yes. Check the pilots when they show up. What's their security status? It's a 5.0, they're probably not going to gank you. If it's a negative something, they might. And even the 5.0 people, they might be specifically doing that to be good spies, because nobody suspects the Angel, right? But yeah, what corp are they in? What alliance? Are they together? Alone? How old are they? Check their employment history. An old pilot is definitely more dangerous. If somebody was made yesterday, they're probably not going to be able to destroy you. They could still tackle you and have other people kill you, but... Alright, story time. We're almost done with this. So, how we got our first kill, Mel. I was in my Purifier, which I sadly lost recently being stupid in a wormhole, but that's beside the point. And I was watching in one of our low-sec systems nearby, and I saw a Hulk on the D-scan. And there was not an ice belt, there was a Jaspit belt. So I figure, well, let's check out the Jaspit belt. Sure enough, The Hulk was there, and then later a porpoise too, but we didn't try for the porpoise. So I'm watching, and I found an asteroid that was right next to the Hulk, and I set a bookmark, and I warp out, and I tell Lele, "Hey, I think we can get this Hulk. Or do you want to try for the porpoise?" We ultimately decided on the Hulk because, well, there's only two of us, and if they sent out all their drones, they might actually kill me. So I warp back within 10 kilometers, and I made sure that there were going to be no objects breaking my stealth in between. As I land on grid, I tell Lele, jump through the gate. As soon as he's in local, I'm going to warp disrupt this Hulk. He got in local, I broke cloak, locked on, disrupted, started firing my torps. Lele got there a few moments later, and using his fancy disintegrator ray thingies, we got our first kill mill for the corp, and nicely it went to Lele. That's kind of nice. So that goes to show you that you do not want to trust anybody that's stealth. I got right up next to the Hulk. Hulk had no idea. I set up bookmarks, warped in, hero tackled the Hulk. We finished it off with a friend that was hiding on the other side of the gate that she had no idea was there. So bookmarks and friends is how we got our first kill mail, and bookmarks and friends is how other people are going to kill you. So be on your guard. That's why we don't want to stay on grid if somebody else was there. And what's interesting to note is bombers are definitely paper thin most of the time anyway. I was down to about half armor. If the Hulk had gotten her drones on me immediately, she may have been able to destroy me, and maybe even warp out before Lele could finish her off. I don't know for sure, but it was pretty dicey, and it took her a while to get the drones on me, so drones are your friend. Another quick story. I was in Puckvin space. I was at a wormhole. I scanned down a wormhole. I flew over to the wormhole, and you're pretty far away from the wormhole, and I was in a Dragoon with a cloak, so I'm really slow, so I'm not going to the wormhole like that. But I ran my dscan and saw that there was interdictor, and I thought, well, shoot, an interdictor can do a bubble, and I really don't want to get caught. So I switched to 180 degree. So this is a little bit more advanced than this class is going for, but going to 180 degree, you point your ship in a direction, and you'll do the dscan in that direction. Or you point your camera, rather, not the ship. So I point the camera in one direction, no interdictor. Other direction, hey, there's the interdictor. I don't want to warp towards the interdictor, so I turned myself back around, warped to a point out that way, which was really far away, but I didn't want to risk it. Warp back to the wormhole at 0, jump through. Nice and safe. dscan saves you. One more story. So I was in a lull with my venture, and I thought, I'm going to bring my retriever in. So I get in my pod, and I fly out, grab my retriever, start flying back in. I get into Dom, and I'm watching my dscan. I'm like, all right, there's still the same two people here. No big deal. Just fly to the next gate. And then I noticed a Proteus, a T3 cruiser. And then I also noticed a battleship. I forget what the battleship was. I didn't even know it was a battleship till I clicked on it in the dscan and was like, oh, it's a battleship. Then I noticed one person left. Oh, there goes the battleship. And then I'm going to hold off a little bit. Yep, there goes the Proteus. They were expecting me to... I'm pretty sure he was expecting me to go through one of those gates. I don't know which gate they went through, but they both definitely went through a gate. So I was not going to go through that gate. So I went back to my safe spot in Dom, pointed myself at the gate to Iderion, going full speed. So I just wait, expecting. Sure enough, Proteus comes back. Then 2 seconds later, combat probes, and I hit warp, or jump. I just jumped, actually. I hit jump to go towards the gate. Said, thanks for the chase and local. Yeah, dscan saved my retriever. They could have, if I would have jumped through that hole, that Proteus would have probably locked me and tackled me before I could get away. There's no way I would have been able to make it back to the gate to jump through, and that battleship would have popped me in like 2 shots. Like, yeah, trust the dscan. It will save you. But it's very important to know how it's used against you as well. Let's see. Yep, that's just more stuff about this. All right, so we discussed the general idea of how to use dscan for protection. We want to just full burst, 360 degrees, 14 AU, and if we see scary ships, dip out. If we're with friends, well, we'll talk about it within the fleet. Whoever's running the fleet should be calling the shots on that. We learned about some of its strengths and weaknesses. It's not going to protect us from cloaky ships. If we see cloaky ships, if we happen to catch one on our dscan, we want to be super cautious about them. If we have a local, maybe that cloaky ship will go away, and we'll see the person drop out a local and you're safe. But aside from cloaky ships and a few other things, the dscan's going to save us. And we went over some examples of how it helped. Anybody have any questions about dscan basics that they would like to discuss before we end this class? So, again, the main point of this is, I know, it was a lot of saying, there's a lot I said, but it really comes down to hit the dscan all the time and be at 360. And get an idea of what ships are. If you don't know what ships are, you still can you can double click on that and get an info card on the ship in the dscan window directly. So you're like, oh, a Gnosis, I don't know what that is. Click on it. Oh, it's that special edition battle cruiser that everybody kills us with in bubble camps in Nullsec. Got it. We see the Gnosis. Let's stay away. Yeah. The main takeaways is hit your dscan all the time. Other people can use dscan to track you down very, very, very quickly. It's very important to know how the other people are threatening you with the dscan. All right. Anything else? All right. Sounds good. Ending the recording now.